Hello, immortals. Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, chop their heads off to find out what gives them their magic. The quickening, the prize. Who knows? I am your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and Spanish peacock,
Alex Strangino. Obviously,
all right.
It's the most Spanish accent I have.
Nailed it? Question mark. We'll get to that. A lot of questionable accent game in today's movie. Before we continue on this ride of our today's double feature, this gift to me, this double feature, guys, a little bit of business. It's official. We're on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com. The best way to support the show, the best way to make this show exactly what you want and deserve. Today's very double feature, programmed by one of our dear friends and patrons, Jason Keene over there. Great selection, right? Jason had heard me say how I was afraid to tackle my favorite movies for fear of the pods not being epic. He challenged us to step forth, and we have done it, and damn, we're glad we did. So again, guys, you can have this power too, this quickening. Feel our hearts beating on a beach. Rub your toes in the sand. We'll run with our shirts unbuttoned together through the epic podcast beaches. Guys, again, that's patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Get in, meet our friends as you climb the official Highlander tier ranking system. Very apt. Finally, it's happened.
TM.
Yeah, you can select the very movies you want to hear. You can vote on Patreon exclusives in our ever-growing Patreon exclusive library. We got little mini shows that'll be coming out over there. We're constantly working hard to find ways to make our Patreon worth your time and money. So go over there at patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel Film Alchemist. See our beautiful faces, as well as our deep, powerful voices that echo through the ages of eternity. Email us, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Find us on all the social media you're on. We're easy to get a hold of. All we do is just stare confused through our windows and sharpen swords, so we always look forward to hearing from you.
We're very cool that way.
Make sure you leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts or just browse books on metallurgy. That helps us defeat the algorithmic overlords that won't let us die and have children and grow old. Right! Guys, this is a very special day for me. Not only has this month been the month of greasing Griff, kneeling before Griff, worshiping on high from down low the Griff. It's fine. It's only fitting in a way. It's poetic. But thanks to Jason's selection, right, that my month of birthday films would end with a double feature of my two favorite movies ever. Hellraiser, which is available to you guys now. Make sure you're downloading that as well. And today's film, Highlander, my all-time favorite movie. I'm not going to lie. I got the sizzle, man. I'm nervous to talk about it. It is impossible that I will be able to describe my deep, infinite well of love for Highlander in any kind of appropriate, charming, clever way. But I am fucking excited as hell to talk about it, too. It feels like what happens, right? I get nauseous when the other immortals are around. So, this movie right away, so many things I love. Starts with the title card. I thought it would be very apt to just start with our title card and read out the very intro. Because you know, this is something I've always loved.
You love
perhaps
the title
because
card.
of Highlander.
I think it is exactly because of Highlander.
All right, so here we go. From the dawn of time we came, moving silently down through the centuries. I'm not doing a Connery. I can't do it. Even a bad one.
You're not doing a Connery.
Lives. No, I can't do it. I don't know what the fuck that was. All right. Living many secret lives, struggling to reach the time of the gathering, when the few who remain will battle to the last. No one has ever known we were among you. Question mark? Is that true? Until now. Guys, Highlander to me is just the perfect example of this podcast, of everything I love about movies. This movie has so many things working against it. It should be a struggle, but it also has so many things that are fucking pure magic. And when you put them together, this movie is so much more than the sum of its parts, some of which are awesome. It's just this epic fucking travel through time and different locations, right? These men sword fighting for the prize that we don't even know what the fuck it is. It's a movie of high mythology with very fucking low standards for explanation. At the core of it is just this brooding Neanderthal man who skipped acting 101, but it still fucking works. It's an incredible feat in movie making. Russell Mulcahy just fucking plugging in the high voltage cinema transitions and visuals. Alex, I don't know, I'm rambling, man. I'm wigging out. We're talking about Highlander. 400 and some episodes in, we're finally hitting my favorite movie of all time.
We're here.
Open us up on Highlander.
Highlander is an interesting film in that everything about Griffey's personality, his ethos, his thoughts on filmmaking and what makes movies magic and wonderful almost strictly reside, with the exception of some elements of Hellraiser, but almost entirely reside.
There is not nearly enough blood, hooks, or cum in this movie. That's my only gripe. Literally the only
But everything that you love and value about storytelling, movies, things that rock your world particularly, reside almost entirely in this film. In its own pocket universe, this is the only movie Griffey watches and feels this way. And this is a really important thing, because movies that do this to us take us back. They take us there. And that, to me, is what makes movies magic. And there's no more magic in this world than watching a movie that makes you feel like a kid. Not just like a kid, but like that feeling of it's not a nostalgia thing. I think this is a really important distinction. It's not nostalgia that takes you there. It's the movie you're watching that makes you think that there are possibilities beyond. That is what magic that's the alchemy that we're always talking about on this podcast. And that, to me, is what Highlander means to Griffey. So watching it today was entertaining, and watching it through that lens makes it that much better. So when I sit down and watch a movie that starts with words on a screen first, Queen.
Oh my God, what princes of the universe.
A revolutionary camera system that now is fucking used the world over. This was the first time it was ever used in a film, by the way. It was built by the same guy who created the Steadicam, and the suspension wire camera that they used to film the wrestling match.
Yeah.
That is now customary in every single NFL game. Every single time you see anybody over the field, that's
innovation.
What this movie is. A lot of innovation, but a movie that starts with words on a screen with voiceover. Sean Connery.
I love
voiceover,
a syllabus. Love a syllabus.
Syllabus, Queen song, professional wrestling, and then we transition almost seamlessly. This is, again, like, it's one of those things that you're just like, oh, I guess we're doing this now. But it totally fucking works, because we've started this movie in a ridiculous way already. Okay, cool. Now we're going to do this sword fight in the middle of a parking lot. Why not?
So you skipped even a whole thing, right?
I know.
The fucking Bela Lugosi, like, only my eyes are lit, like a man with a secret. So before we even go to the sword fight, we go back in time to these wide shots of a Scottish battlefield. So the first, like, 10 minutes of this movie, this is, do you remember when we were kids and Mountain Dew Code Red came out the first time?
Yep.
The first time you drank a bottle, you're like, those aren't natural flavors. This is some kind of, like, chemical magic.
Right.
I remember thinking, like, Jeff Goldblum, like, yeah, you crazy bastards, you did it. You didn't stop and think if you should.
Right.
Only
like,
if you could.
I don't know what the flavor Code Red is. It's just the flavor
Code
Red.
It's
red.
Code Red flavor. Like,
whatever red
alert
is.
your ass. Your senses are about to be overwhelmed. That is truly the first, like, 10 minutes of this movie. Because you go into that wrestling ring and you've got this fucking ripping Queen song, right? And we're jumping back and forth. It is so frantically shot and edited. You feel the vibrance of this arena and this wrestling match, right? The Freebirds, I think, were wrestling, right? And you cut to Connor. It's just these fucking weird jump cuts and the New Yorker screaming in his ear. And then you juxtapose that to these wide, kind of slower shots with this serene instrumental underneath, right?
Yeah.
Then you cut back, right? The real world is intrude again. Connor runs into the garage, right? Connor McLeod. Mm-hmm. And he gets fucking shown down by like, I don't know, everyone's accountant who are like, I think that guy's skimming off the top.
Apparently this guy who works for Bernie Madoff is also an immortal. Who knew?
Fazil, right?
Fazil.
And next thing you know, just a fucking sword fight erupts. And I mean, we're talking about it's drenched in water. Again, the camera is just fucking flying everywhere. The fucking skimming ass accountant Fazil is just doing backflips everywhere on slippery surface.
Yep, a lot of backflips.
Yeah, and it ends at a head chop, and the head comes up as a ghostly energy. The whole fucking building explodes, and this man gets the power. And then they just go poof, hard cut back to an ancient battlefield. And to this day, that first 10 minutes never loses an ounce of jolt to me.
Everything about this is a distillation of what makes movies magic for you. And that's what makes watching it so entertaining this time, is because it's literally all the things, like, not only that, this is like another thing too. Like, you and I are both writers, like we've sat down and put pen to paper. This is another part of this that you and I have talked about, is sometimes things do not really need a whole explanation as to why they occur. And I think that is something else that echoes through the work we've done, is like, right? Like, you see it in other aspects of your life too. Like, creatively, you sit there and you're like, absolutely nobody told me why these guys are sword fighting. I think it's just cool and we'll just go with it. That is what makes this thing magic.
It's a fucking big old brass balls move to just call it the prize. It never fully. We get some fucking flowery language as to what the prize might be. But if you go through the movie, there's so much that is just, it's talked to. They say something, right? Like, it's the gathering. You're like, holy fuck, sounds like something that would be on like a Marriott conference room. Like, right. I understand
that's
that.
Like a Juggalos thing.
Yeah. You're like, you understand the terms, you feel like, and they don't fully congeal, but this movie is just this fucking frantic race, right? Every time I watch this movie, I'm struck by, it feels like the movie is racing to the end because they're afraid that we're going to see the magic trick for what it is and turn it off. And I still never have 20 some years later. I think this is what I've found watching this movie this time, is I realize I actually do not, other than what I do that first flashback to the battlefield where Clan MacLeod goes in on it with the Kurgan. This is a portion of the movie that is weird, but I'm not sure I actually need it because I'm so engaged. Now it's awesome, and I don't have a problem with it at all. Like, this is this is the power of Highlander to me. Is I'm watching this movie, and I'm watching this movie, and because we've now been conditioned for 10 minutes to like jumping around, when we're in the past, I almost feel like, can we just jump to the next thing? Like, let's keep jumping. I'm really enjoying this. Like, I'm gathering information in this movie, but I'm like I'm fiending for more. I am desperate to like get to the next thing because I just watched wrestling and I heard Queen and I saw two guys sword fight in a parking garage. Yeah. Like, I have got to see what's coming up next. That is powerful. One of the like most memorable elements of the movie is the insane transition game. Love it. The transition game in this is just the fucking best I've ever seen. Like, I love it, right? The one scene when it's just a close-up on his face and he becomes the Mona Lisa as he's now walking in modern-day New York. When he goes, great. And he sharpens his sword and we zoom into his aquarium, raise up above water level, and they're doing boat trade. Magic. But to me, this is the beauty of Highlander, right? Because I think most people approaching this story would set it in the modern times. And you would hear about the past, but you wouldn't see it as much. Because you're adding a fuckload of expense when you do that period piece segment. Absolutely. Of the movie. Especially giant battles. Yeah, because the racing around modern day grungy New York, sword fighting, right? Like a head-lopping serial killer, battling other immortals, whatever. You're like, fuck yeah, you had me on that right away. That premise works. Yep. To me, what separates Highlander and makes it this tale that's so much more magic to me, right? This epic, grandiose fantasy. 'Cause it is this kind of weird. It doesn't feel like a fantasy film all the time to me, right? There's kind of these action beats and whatever, but that high fantasy of it really means the world to me. So when we go back and you see the castle and just seeing your lead character who you just saw dressed as a fucking mall pedophile back
really
in that
to the
time.
bit.
I mean, the duster is just such a fucking bad look. Like, there are just some outfits that have just been taken over by a certain
It's not just
segment.
the duster. It's the entire, like, it's the putting, like.
If your mom got divorced in the 80s,
Yeah,
and a guy who was on and off employed was coming to pick her up for a date, he dressed exactly like Connor McLeod without the duster.
it's one of those things. Connor McLeod is dressed in a way you're like, this guy does not care about fashion. Like, I think this is like the hardest I've ever seen someone rock in a pair of Keds. Like,
Because
to be
the thing
completely
he
honest.
loved, imagine if you found your look and history just took that from you. I think about this all the time. I hate wearing jeans, right? Jeans are oppressive. What if you grew up in the time of a kilt and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, put these fucking jeans on?
Right.
Connor McLeod is a man who suffers enormously in this film. That's neither here nor there. But to me, just that transition, right, of seeing this guy in this battle. And again, the first time you see the Kurgan, you're just like, holy fuck, that is the most metal shit I've ever seen. Yeah. Leave the boy to me. And you're just like, oh, fuck, right? And Connor, I love this beat too, right? Because the way they shot this is very different, right? It's got the orchestral, it's a little serene. But watching Connor, who pretended he's not afraid of battle, storming through the battlefield, no one will fight me, you cowards. He's literally in the middle of this fucking just pointless life and death exercise, right? Even the priest is a throat slicer.
Right.
And he's just desperately trying to be a part of it. And in but one swing, right? Because the Kurgan rears up on the horse. You're like, fuck yeah, put that on my van. It's so fucking awesome. And just takes Connor down. And you watch just the like uselessness of this, right? This smallness of the human life. But we know he's going to go on, right? And so even more than the rest of the story, right? The opening is what it is. It's a laying the groundwork. But Connor being chased out of his village through Connor and Blossom's story, to me, that is the fucking grand beating heart of this movie.
Yes.
That as a fantasy lover, you need that kind of stuff instead of just the like, hey, we're, sword fighting around New York alleyways, right? The moment that this guy, you see his body leave him from the wounds it filled, right? They do the rites, and he wakes back up, right? You see these people who are a superstitious people that believe in God, and we saw the friar leads the charge, right?
Right.
This is a fucking miracle. This is a resurrection Jesus style, right? This man they love, the woman who wants him brought back. We all know which piece that is, right? These people that seemingly loved him and would fight for him and die for him, their cousin, their clansman, is brought back like Jesus. They immediately don't see a miracle, but a man full of demons, right?
Right.
And even Angus, he's like, please, Angus, you know me, and he's good. You better get out of here, Connor. I'm not going anywhere. Just the hardest cut to this just fucking vicious beating. They've got him strung up, and they are beating the fuck out of this guy. They are now a ravenous, hellacious mob, right? The girl who was in love with him is like, fucking murder him. And it's just wonderful. Not what's happening, right? But the examination is wonderful.
I think what's really impressive and what's really important about what I was getting at earlier is like slowing, because I agree, like just setting everything in New York and it being like a serial killer thing, like that's a detective movie and that sucks.
Still fucking rad, but
I mean, no, it's like boring as hell. Like
there can be only 7 with the number 7.
I think what's nice is because you give him this tragic backstory. Like, oh shit, like there's an element there that makes you actually give a shit about Connor McLeod. So like when we meet him, we're just shocked by what we've just seen. Then we have a reason to actually be like, oh, cool. Like there is this other element to it. So when we meet him further, when we keep learning more about him, like as he meets Ramirez and all these other characters throughout the movie, even when he meets when he meets other immortals, like that's a fucking, you're just like, oh cool. Like all these guys kind of get that, like life kind of sucks when you live forever. So like, I don't know if like I was reading
Imagine being given the gift of immortality and everyone you love just decides they're going to beat your ass. That moment with him and Dougal, or Cousin Dougal, he's like, can you walk? And he's like, I'll bloody well walk out of here. And he's like, go. He's like, I'll never forget you. And him walking up that hill, literally just leaving the life he was gifted back behind. I think it's great, man. And Lambert is not, like, he's not going to be on Inside the Actors Studio, per se. But,
well, that's because he doesn't speak English. This is a really important thing about this movie, is he had to learn English to make this movie.
Sure. I understand. I would argue that might not be his greatest hurdle, but
I'll be honest, I think it actually I don't give a shit about, like, the accent thing is whatever. I don't give a fucking shit about that.
It's iconic at this point. I love it. Yeah. I won't say anything.
I think it's wonderful. What I think is amazing, and I think actually this is the advantage I think the movie has, is because Christopher Lambert in real life, like, did not know English before he started making this. Had to learn English to make this movie. So because of that, there is this like shyness to the character, the way the Lambert is portraying him.
Yeah.
And that like sort of wry sense of humor that Lambert brings to it.
So creepy.
It's really, really, it makes a movie that otherwise is ultra depressing. Cause like, if you think about a remake in 2022 is like literally the most depressed guy in the universe, walking around having to be fucking immortal. He like hates it.
No,
like,
I agree.
I love that.
But there's something about Lambert that he just always looks like he's staring in his dead mother's casket, right? Like he looks so fucking drawn out. Like this is a man who's just suffered for eons.
I think it's because he has a bad haircut, but that's me.
Well, that does not help. But he has this real otherness about him. And when we see him, like the date with Brenda in her apartment, where he's like, I love your place, Brenda. And he's holding the gun. You're like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? You've been around long enough to like learn how to sling it, man. What's going on? But there is an outsiderness to him always, which was set up when he got his ass beat leaving that village. The only time he was happy is when he lived out in the middle of fucking nowhere where only one person had to like him.
In a super dope castle.
Oh my God, what the fuck, dude? The segment of this, I have a couple like favorite moments, but the arc with Blossom is by far my favorite in the movie, right? This man who, after what we just saw, like happily rebuilding his life, and there's this crushing line, right? When they're rolling around on the hill after possibly fornicating, whatever. And she just goes, you can do that to me forever, my lord. And there's just this slight little quiver in Lambert where it kind of dawns on him like, I fucking might be able to, but you won't. And then that's when, again, this movie nails entrances. When Ramirez comes flying and, we are brothers. We are the same. Dude, he just comes in. Hey, what's up? I'm a metallurgist. Nice fucking. Let's talk about what happened at your old village.
I thought about this a lot. And I was trying to figure out how. I was reading online. I was literally digging. I was like, how did he end up being in this movie? Because like, I think it's amazing. Like, it's a great casting. Like, he's absolutely fantastic.
He's an Egyptian Spanish guy who went to Japan for long stretches. He's actually Scottish.
I scoured the internet to figure out how he wound up in this movie. Like,
so there's a great book. There's a Making of Highlander book that is like fucking massive and dense. I still haven't finished it, but it has so many interviews. Connery's one of the only two people involved with the film that is not in it. Because by that point he had peeled back from life. But I think it's $5 on Amazon. I think it's called A Kind of Magic.
Right.
The Making of Highlander.
So I literally I could not figure out how he got cast, like why it happened. I was trying to figure out if maybe
You know
Russell
the
Mulcahy
question
knew
I've
him.
always had? Do you not imagine there was a world where someone was trying to tell them, why not just make Connery Connor McLeod?
I thought that too.
And I'm actually glad they didn't. Because he's so confident and big.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, the outsidery shyness of Connor is super important to this movie.
It's very important to get us through the movie because this is a really, it's the outsider shyness, but that outsider thing is what makes us, it's what makes it work when he's in New York and being just part of life. Yeah. Like this is what separates it so well, because what you see is he's just trying to, it's not necessarily like trying to get on with his life, but he's just trying to go with the flow. And I think that's what's so great about, like, in direct opposition, you have Clancy Brown doing the Kurgan, which is like literally at every single opportunity stomping a huge fucking boot in the middle of life. Like stomping through going the opposite direction of the way the rest of the world is going on purpose. It's a really, really important dichotomy. So when you get there, when you see it, and when you're in the middle of it, it shouldn't feel real. And it feels very authentic in a movie that, like, absolutely nothing about it is going to feel authentic for, like, if you're a cynical person.
Well, there's the great moment where you're like, that's why Connery has to be Ramirez and not Connor, is when Kurgan fucking busts down the door of the castle, right?
Yeah.
And it's just Connery and Blossom, and Kurgan fucking bust in, dude. He's looking like the Undertaker, just beating ass. And then all of a sudden, Connery jumps into action, fucking gets a throat slice. But that set piece, right, of them fighting through this fucking epic castle, throwing each other around. There's doves. I mean, they're literally hitting just giant styrofoam bricks that are rolling around. And it's just by the time they reach the top of the collapsing tower, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just this fucking awesome matte painted sky behind them.
So great. So great.
Fuck yeah, dude. This is great. Like, I just love that fucking shit.
I read that take where he erupts through the door, Clancy Brown almost fucking took Sean Connery out, and Sean Connery stormed off set. And
like what, with a sword?
Yeah. Almost fucked up Sean Connery's shit. Stormed off set. Clancy Brown had to apologize. He's like, I'm really sorry. And apparently, he was very apologetic. And Sean Connery apparently said, I got to start using my stump double more. Like, that was his response to that. I'm like, tell me that's not the greatest.
He was a former bodybuilder before Bond. He's like a real legit tough
Tell me
guy.
That's like not like the actual tough guy response. It's like, I don't need this. Like, I should probably use my stunt double more.
Dude, I'm old, man. I'm fucking old. But no, I just love that beat too, man. So Kurgan finally gets him, right? And Ramirez turns around and spits in his fucking face, right? So he even says at one point, because there is this kind of thing in the movie, like, why does he have such a hard-on for McLeod specifically? Right? Instead of the others. It seems like he's just picking off the least of the immortals to gain that, like, percentile extra power to beat the tough guys.
Right.
But when, Ramirez is like, I prepared him for you. Because we still never know exactly why Ramirez helps him, right? When they're training in the woods, Connor even says, if it was down to just me and you, would you take my head? And he never answers that, right?
Right.
The only thing we know for sure is he says, because that training montage is great, right? This is where they lay out all the rules, right? We don't fight on holy ground. It's tradition. What? Why? We'll be compelled to a faraway land. What? Why? Okay. Like, we can already feel each other. Here's the quickening. Here's this. You can run like that fucking deer. Breathe like that deer. Just another great bros on the beach moment. Connor underwater. He can't die. He's immortal. I love this whole... Speaking of the comedy, I gotta say, I'm just so frantic right now. The scene, there is a shot in this movie that fucking kills me, which is when he comes out of the lake trying to kill Ramirez. Already one of the funniest things ever in the movie is Christopher Lambert's underwater laugh should be my ringtone. That
Okay, that might be one of the top 5 like most iconic
just the
scenes.
funniest
in a movie.
shit I've ever seen in a movie, right? But he comes out and he tries to fight Ramirez. Ramirez dodges his swing, and he just goes, "I hate you." That's a good place to start, brother.
That's a good
right?
place to start.
Yeah, and they start going at it, and I swear to God, they have fish that drop out of Connor McLeod's taint, balls, butthole, because they don't have boxer briefs back then, right? So I don't know what's down there, right?
It's just fish dangling off his dangle.
Just some fish was swimming, and then he got clamped under the fucking the clan McScrode or whatever. The fish fall out on the ground, and the camera just puts a medium on Connor McLeod, who raises his head up and gives this look like, right? It's this ain't I a lovable scamp look that is just the face he makes at Sean Connery after the fish falling out of his butthole is the funniest shit. I don't know, man. It's all
pretty
works.
wonderful. But it's pretty wonderful.
So the Kurgan taking Ramirez, getting his fucking power. Dude, he does that. I was like, I think the Undertaker stole his whole gimmick from Highlander. I have to do a timeline. But he rolls his eyes back. He gets the lightning. He falls. When he grabs Blossom.
Yeah.
It still every fucking time to this day chokes me up. Because now I know. But back then, you still knew. You're like, someone like that shouldn't be touching her. Shouldn't be in this. This is a creature that is not us, right? This predatory monster and this innocent lady. It's almost shocking when they come back and Blossom and Connor are like rebuilding, right? They're looking at the lost castle, mourning their friend. And they still go for it, man. She happily goes for it. Because that leads to one of the most devastating bits of the movie at the end. Yeah. When she wasn't your woman, Ramirez lied. And so imagine, this is the thing though that Lambert's face is beautiful for. His kind of like brow line and eyes make this fucking t-shirt cannon of rage and confusion.
Yeah. It's a real Cro-Magnon thing.
When he fucking hears Kurgan admit what he did to Blossom the day that he was lighting a candle for her and Ramirez.
Yeah.
That is heartbreaking shit. We're kind of jumping around a little bit. So walk me through Kurgan in this movie. Because if there's an undeniable MVP of the film, best thing in the movie, besides the Queen soundtrack,
right?
It's Kurgan. For sure.
I mean, for me, Clancy Brown is always this, like, Clancy Brown always does these great, especially as he's gotten older. Clancy Brown does these very measured, just like very measured, very calculated, like anger fueled characters. I mean, he's good in all of them. Like, I love him in Shawshank, Starship Troopers, as Lex Luthor, like all these characters he's done over the years, like it's just fantastic. And every single Carnival, like he's always awesome. This is him as a young man, but like the level of off the chainness that like you get is not a lot of actors have. Here's the thing: not a lot of actors can do that and it be considered range. I think that's like a really important thing about what he brings to the Kurgan is there's like that off the chain thing only works if it's measured by an actor who understands like that crazy. It's the same thing like that we like about Heath Ledger as the Joker. Like that level of crazy comes from a very specific place, which is just pure. It's like pure, undiluted evil in a way.
There is something about the Kurgan that I love, right? Because it starts off and he is just your textbook big scary monster guy, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you see a little bit of him like enjoying the battle with Ramirez, right? But for the most part, by the time he's in New York, I know his name.
Yeah.
You know, my name's Candy. Of course it is. One of the fucking funniest.
He's off the chain, dude.
I know, but that's the thing. Up until that point, he's still pretty staccato, right? He's the stiff, scary gargoyle of looming.
There's a lot of stoicism, right? Yeah.
And then as the movie begins to pick up, right? Because your first kind of glance of him coming undone, right? Whether this is the Kurgan how he normally behaves or the gathering is fueling him to new levels of madness, right? Because watching it today, I was struck by there is this vibe where it almost feels like the Kurgan wants to lose, right? Like there is this bit of him that he's been the strongest for so long. And it's not really titillating for him. See, there are so many times he lets McLeod go. He's trying to bait him, fuel him. There is this vibe that he just can't enjoy anything anymore. But we're watching him try, right? When he takes out the guy in the alley, right? And he takes out the Marine and gets his powers. He runs at the people. He's seemingly enjoying scaring them. He cuts the car off. Mom. Another just hilarious cutaway is the grandma on the hood of the car. Ah!
So good.
But I think the scene with Kurgan today that really fucked with me was when, because the church scene is obviously like the best Kurgan scene, but
yeah,
when he captures the metallurgist lady, right? And he takes her on that car ride from hell.
Mm-hmm.
The way they shot that is still, like those pedestrians just getting fucking run over. This is the thing, though. At this point in the movie, also, I love that he shows up to her apartment, Linda, with a fucking little popsicle, right? Like he just got at the zoo. Like those small pleasures. He knows that she knows about immortals, knows who he is, knows that he's immortal.
Right.
She cannot be impressed by his devil may care routine, right? When he's driving her through and risking mortal death. Right?
Right.
He knows that she knows he's not in danger. He's not impressing her, and he knows that. Why is he still pushing it to that extreme? There is a lust and wanton desire to feel a repercussion in my mind.
Huh. I never thought of it that way.
When he's doing the chicken game with the semis, he knows that she knows he can't die. That's not cool. Playing chicken when you can't die is not fucking cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
He likes to see that mortals pay the price. He yearns for that, I think.
I suppose, like, for me, I've always just read it as someone who's, I'm not sure bored's the right way to put it, because to me, that's not what
absolutely.
it is.
Absolutely. It is, though, right?
I don't know, man. Like, to me, it's...
Well, it's the same thing when you're like, oh, I saw a video on YouTube of a guy who fucking put a cherry bomb attached to his nutsack while his two friends watched.
Well, see,
that begins in boredom.
Well, all right. Well, I think the analogy is apt.
I think if you're immortal, though, you can blow your nuts off and they just grow back. We don't really get into the full mathematics. That's more of a Highlander on USA with Duncan MacLeod.
Yeah, we don't get into
it felt like every season they did a handful of episodes where it's like answering Highlander fanfic questions.
Yeah, we don't get into fan fiction questions.
I fucking love that Highlander series, dude. I used to watch that shit religiously.
But I think this is because I like to think that it's a little more. It's a little this is why though. I like to think it's more than just he's bored because of what he does to Blossom. Like, that to me is an earth-shattering moment. Not necessarily for Kurgan,
okay,
but
think of this though. When he assaults Blossom, why? Because that's Ramirez's woman who he's already bested and taken away. So the only thing you can glean is maybe she'll tell MacLeod about it.
See, and that's,
so he's leaving wreckage everywhere he goes, but
but this is why I don't think it's boredom. I don't think it's boredom. I agree with the notion that maybe he knows maybe he knows he's going to lose, or what it is he's spent the centuries like in constant pursuit of the ultimate battle. Like he knows that MacLeod's far enough away. Like him arriving in New York City is a big deal for him.
Yeah.
He knows the MacLeod's far enough away where he doesn't have to deal with it. So what he's doing is training up. He wants to become greater. He knows that he almost got fucking iced by the mentor. So he has to train for MacLeod. MacLeod is maybe MacLeod because MacLeod's a broken man. Like a broken man through the centuries who lost his friend, lost his lover. Yeah. He can't possibly. And then maybe, who knows, Kurgan might have gone back there and seen, oh shit, MacLeod, the sword's stuck in the ground, clouds out, like he's just walking the earth now.
Yeah,
So
and this is because they don't really explain why you can't just kill everyone before the gathering. You've had centuries, but this gets to. I think there are two kinds of immortals in this film, right? Because they never really describe why all of these other immortals are so friendly, right? It doesn't really make sense,
right?
To hang out with the people that are magically compelled to fucking chop your head off, right? But I think what it is we see these types where. I think what Kurgan is so drawn to Connor is because Connor has the ability to still attach himself to things and care. And I think watching Connor feel that pain and lose things he cares about is the thing that titillates Kurgan more than raw power. I think he likes having the power to then watch McLeod suffer. I think he wishes, because we learned the Kurgans were, from the Russian steppes, a very ancient people. He could be thousands of years old.
Do you think
they used
maybe
to throw their young in dog pits to make them fight for food?
Do you think maybe it's a jealousy of some kind?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think it's this mix of boredom, man. Because this is the thing. He even states it, right? It's better to burn out than to fade away.
Better to burn out than to fade away.
And it's possible that he knows the prize is, hey, you can just have kids and grow old. Do you think Kurgan... I think there's this double-edged sword where there's a part of him that wants to be done being the Kurgan, but doesn't want to be done as the old man Kurgan who's like, man, that sword's really bad, and my knee gave out last week. I'm 72. I got 3 ungrateful kids that work at Hot Topic.
I think Kurgan's pursuit is the ultimate battle. I think because he knows he can't do any of those things.
Yeah,
his pursuit.
Kurgan is battling the weight of ages on a human mind. Because there is no way you can make the argument in this movie that Kurgan, the ultimate warrior, who's had all of these years of battle testing and fighting, thinks this is the best way to defeat Connor McLeod.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think it matters to him. This is a really interesting thing because Russell Mulcahy doesn't take any time to I love they do the cat and mouse thing with
when he hangs Linda up on that sign, right?
Yeah, they do that shit with Brenda, and I think that's fine.
That's a Fay Ray presentation for Kurgan as the audience of one, man.
Yeah, I love that the Silver Cup Studios thing. That's a fine beat. But here's the thing. I think there's no strategy here, and this is the thing that I like the most about the movie, honestly. And I think this is something that you probably subconsciously. This is what draws you in. Because you and I have seen a lot of movies together, we've watched a lot of movies for this pod. But I think the really important thing, and you and I have talked about this when we work on stories together, is the distillation of what the movie is really. And the movie to me, Highlander to me, is about the pursuit of not happiness, but the pursuit of oneness. Not necessarily being the one, not necessarily the prize itself, because they don't know what it is. When we get to the end and actually see what the prize is, I got to be honest, I assumed after, when we find out what it actually kind of is.
I'll tell you this, I've seen it a bunch. I still am not sure I could explain it.
This is something that I want to ask you, though, because, and I know I'm
you
jumping. You
kind of see the fallout in Highlander 2, but
this is, I know I'm jumping, and I know Highlander 2 sort of squashes this, but honestly, I think, I originally thought, the first time I saw this, when it got to the end, when he's talking with Brenda, I thought the prize was Brenda. Is it Brenda? Jeez, it was Brenda, right?
I think so. I think I said it wrong. I said Linda.
Brenda Wyatt.
Yeah.
So Brenda and him are talking. The first time I saw this movie, I presumed the prize was mortality.
Yes, that is a part of it, is that you can grow old. Because this is, to me, the whole movie is, right? What is worth not dying for, living for? What is worth living for?
Absolutely.
Right? What is the point? And that's the Kurgan's fatal flaw, is that there will never be enough power. He can't burn out, right? He is exclusively fading away his whole existence. And this gathering gives him a chance to go out in a flaming ball of fire. Right. Whether he knows, because him and Ramirez somehow know all this other shit. So there's a chance that someone somewhere knew what the prize was and tells them, right? That all men's thoughts and dreams are yours to know, right? Connor McLeod seems to think he can be a bridge and a hive mind to make the world a better place, which leads to part 2 with the fucking global warming bubble and all that kind of shit that they really went hard for it. Let me stake this here. Someday I'm doing Highlander 2 on this show because the fact that that movie's a 0% is fucking poppycock. If you're going to make a sequel, go big and go weird. Make it, don't just do a pale imitation of the first, which they certainly did not. Ramirez is a ghost in that one. It's fucking bananas. It's bananas. I think they're Martians. Connor McLeod has a fucking like Green Goblin glider sword fight. It's awesome.
Sweet.
It's really a fucking great movie.
What's there not to love about that?
Apparently a lot if you talk to everyone on Earth who's not me. I think I'm one of the last people that actually likes Highlander 2. I actually have a poster for it upstairs in my hangout area. Anywho, but I think this is the thing, right? Is finding something. So to me, the scene that explains the difference between Connor and Kurgan, it's probably 2 or 3 favorite scenes in the movie is when we see Blossom crest that hill, and now she's old, and Connor just holds her, right? She's like, I wish I could have had your kids. They would have been fine, strong kids. And she's like, go, let me die in peace. And he won't. He just fucking holds her. The implications of that, right? And again, I know people looked that old when they were like 34 back then. But for at least a while, 10, 20, 30 years, right? Blossom is physically withering and dying. She feels it in her bones. All of us who have experienced aging, even as little as we have, we feel the difference. We know we're dying. We're closer to the end than the beginning, right?
Right.
Connor stays with her and watches her. Connor suffers that with her. They both know it and must not speak on it. Or even if they do, they can't. They are helpless to do it. And he doesn't leave her. He says, I love you as much today as I did back then. And I just think that scene means a lot to me even still, man. Just finding something in the world that, you know, it gets hard sometimes, man, for any of us and whatever we're dealing with, whether it's in our houses or outside in the world. It's hard to find something like that, man. And the fact that Connor had it, after all that trauma, he had it. And Ramirez is like, let her go, brother. I had a queen named Shakiko, right? And her father was a swordman. Right? I don't know why he's the Penguin now or a Newsy, whatever. But,
Really
but, you know, he had it. And he knew, despite what Ramirez said, is that he wasn't going to leave her.
Right.
And he would suffer that weight. And he would light a candle for her for hundreds of years to come. And carry that pain. And I think that's the gamble we all make, right? That's why we all don't just line up to jump into a volcano tomorrow.
Right.
It's because there's so much to live for, even when it seems really fucking
I think that's
bad.
the really important thing about what makes Connor tick is he
That
sees
scene is
things
fucking-
to live for. It's a beautiful scene.
God, even when he finishes, they're like, we're in the Highlands. It's not too bad. I don't know. Now he's Connery.
But he's
carrying Blossom out, and he lights the house. Oh, my God.
He sees things that are worth living for, even in a life that is endless.
Even
That's
in the middle of World War II.
In the middle of World War II. Personally, I think killing Nazis is an awesome way to spend.
But I'm saying, imagine this guy who lost Blossom, and if you know World War II's coming, you're immortal. Walk across the bottom of the Atlantic and leave. Go wherever. He stays. So when he ends up saving Rachel, right? She goes, why are you not dead? Hey, it's that kind of magic. That line, though, I've said that so many times this drunk Griffey said, whatever you want, you're the master race. Whatever you want, Jack, you're the master race. It's just fucking
so
funny.
Great.
But again, Connor McLeod's out there seemingly helping in the middle of World War II. He is a man who has reasons to live. Kurgan is looking for a reason to die.
There's a pursuit of value, and no, I agree. I mean that's a very important aspect, and I think that's what makes the final battle that much more thrilling for some reason, is because this pursuit of life and death collides in a way that is so fascinating. Because look, it's a movie from the 80s. We all know how it's going to end. Like, there's no way the guy with fucking, you know, like pins in his neck is going to be the one to like win this one. Like, there's just
Yeah. The
It's not
Kurgan
possible.
literally just infected the malls in the 90s. I remember my mom would like make me walk further into the middle of the mall so I wouldn't even be near Hot Topic.
Yeah.
So we
This
knew,
is like a perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, he is like dude, what a perfect time. Like the 80s. Like this is 86, I think. So like punk fashion is like really becoming hot. Like we're really getting it. Like we're like getting out of the like we're getting out of like Sex Pistols territory and getting more into like what American punk turned into. And you're like, oh shit, like this is like American punk and like goth
Black
punk
flagging
too.
and the Misfits.
Yeah,
and shit.
like a lot of Black Flag shit. So like, oh dude, yeah, this is gonna be awesome. Like that is the vibe and that's the look. So you're like, oh, that's the otherness that the Kurgan has. Is he is in violation of what the norm is, so to speak.
Well, he is in violation of every law of nature and our society, right? He is what
Yes.
punks actually wish they were, right? Walking
He's
in and
the
just putting
truest
out the
punk.
memory candles.
Putting
Happy
out the memory
Halloween,
candles,
ladies.
like
Right?
yeah, hello, late, like tonguing the tongue. Like, come on, man.
This
Like,
is another thing I say all the time. Forgive me, I am a worm. I say it. It's just, it's better to burn out than to fade away. And he spins around. There's no way I can ever express to you guys how much I love this movie. I'm trying my best, man. It's just everything, every fucking scene, I'm like exploding with joy. And you know what you said earlier, right? Is it's not nostalgia. It's that it actually can transport me to this fucking place where I transcend whatever bullshit's happening to me. For 2 hours, I can shut off and just fucking be in this wonderful fucking tale.
That is what makes movies of this ilk particularly so impactful. It's not that it takes you to a better time, a more innocent time, a whatever time. What it does is it takes you to that place you have to go. It's not retreating to childhood. It's taking you out of the world altogether and just putting you into true escapism. That's that's the transformative thing about movies, and that's the transformative thing about holding on to a movie like this for your entire life. That's what makes any movie in your arsenal special like that, is that that's the true escape. Is not, oh man, I remember when I was 5 and saw this for the first time. Like what it is, oh man, I adore watching this movie because it takes me to a different place. That's the true the true immortality of movies.
For sure, man. I've always had a theory about this movie. I was going to run it by you. In that final scene, when the Kurgan and Connor bust through the window, right? They're fighting underwater. They're saving Brenda from her fucking, dalliance over the edge of the fucking building.
Right.
She
where
somehow
you
falls
can clearly
down the
see
building
she's
too,
safety harnessed.
Come on. Movie magic. Let it be.
Absolutely love it. I love it. I'm not kidding.
Some things should have stayed on VHS. It's no big deal.
Absolutely adore it.
When Connor and Kurgan are fighting, right, there's a scene when Connor starts slashing Kurgan a little, and his eyes go black.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if Kurgan becomes the worst fighter ever. It feels as if he's stripped of his powers. I've always had this theory. I don't know exactly what it would be, but either the souls that he had digested, right? That the other immortals in there betray him in that moment and are able to withhold their strength for just long enough to Connor to get him. Or that whatever those demonic creatures are, those cartoon demons in the end, that those are the kind of guardians of these powers, right? And that whoever caused all this and started it decided in that moment. And that's why Kurgan is laughing even as his head gets lopped off. Not just that he's excited to finally fucking burn out, but because he knows this whole fucking contest was rigged from the beginning.
Right.
What do you make of this? The eyes going black. And all of a sudden the Kurgan can't fucking fight.
I'd go the latter. Like the latter makes more sense to me because I think it's the more interesting result. Like all of a sudden all these like, first off, I think it would be bullshit and like kind of disingenuous to Connor McLeod himself if all of a sudden all these like other immortals are like, hang on, we can hold him back. Like that's some
Ramirez, that's why they were actually bonding.
That's some Harry Potter shit that
you don't like that the
with.
fucking Jedi ghost idea.
Not for
I like
this.
the idea that Kurgan's like, you fucking bitches.
I like the
fucking
idea
betrayed me in the moment of
I
the
like the
prize.
idea that Kurgan is holding on to all this ill will, and that's like this like Pandora's box moment. That's why the prize, like the true prize, almost is. It's not this ethereal thing, this otherworldly thing. It's literally killing the other immortal. But the duality of that I think is what's. I like the latter theory. I prefer that one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, there is this idea that the prize would not work for Kurgan. I don't think he wants to be managing a darker Earth. I think he's done this for so long, there is no more pleasure in it for him.
Right. So do you think, like,
when he gets his head chopped, I think he's genuinely excited.
Do you think that's his prize? Is there such a thing as the prize?
His prize is that he remains frozen in time as he always was, this legend. But he no longer has to suffer through, right? He wrote that story a long time ago. There's no more chapters.
I like that. I
don't think Kurgan gets out and is all of a sudden like, I'm really stoked to fucking have I want to hear Hearts and Dreams. That's what I want to hear. They say he has unfathomable power, but who knows what the fuck that means.
I like that. I like that idea. I like I'm down for the latter part of that.
We also
theory.
didn't talk about the exact opposite of Connor's arc with Blossom is Connor's arc with Brenda, which is just kind of fueled by metallurgy and greed, it feels like.
She really wants a piece. She really wants a piece, but mainly of the historical significance.
I think she's like, I'm a fuck my way to these artifacts, is what I think.
For sure.
I'll say this though. One of the weird, in a movie that is just the most smoothest transitions of all time, right? The transition from,
I know what you're gonna say,
I stabbed a guy in the heart to weirdest fucking sex scene
I knew you were gonna
ever.
say it.
Like, she stabs him in the heart and is just so fucking ready. She's like, I hope you have an antique bucket and a mop, because it's happening right now.
I think, I mean, based on this double feature, I'm not really surprised by people who get turned on by violent shit anymore. So
I'm just saying, somewhere in that circle room's a puzzle box, and Brenda's gonna get it. It's coming for her eventually. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's gonna get a visit for sure.
That transition, just that tiny knife. Oh, maybe.
I think she's like, oh, cool, I can ride this pony all night, and he's never gonna tire out. That's what it is.
What we see from her artwork, she has a Scottish Highlander fan.
His heart won't explode, and his dinghy will not turn into a fucking needle.
All right. He's immortal. That doesn't mean he has like a fucking infinite.
That's a big question, though.
You're saying immortals don't have refractory periods? I don't think that's.
I don't know. I mean, hey, listen, I've never had sex with an immortal, so
I'm guessing Connor McLeod hasn't fucking clapped cheeks since Blossom died, so he's probably really bad at it. That first load might murder her.
Exactly.
It shoots out like when he fucking gains power. He's all backed up from all these souls.
Yeah, that's what the
backflipping insurance adjusters.
That's what the real quickening is. That's why it's called that.
It's been a long time. Forgive me.
This Lambert impression is just the best.
I think our impressions are not much worse than the general accents.
I would not disagree with that.
MVP
at all.
MVP one-liners of the movie, right? When Connor McLeod goes, "What are you, cruising for a piece of ace?" I say that all the time to Amy. He's like, I think he went down to get a blowjob. Maybe he was so unimpressed with the wrestling, he went to the garage and cut his own hair.
That whole beat is just one of those things where it's just like...
My favorite thing in that moment when Connor McLeod goes, what are you, cruising for a piece of ace? They do another of those amazing fish scrotum close-ups where it's just the commissioner going, because that cop clearly has issues with being toxic against homosexuals. And he knows it's about to go down. But, yeah, it's...
Look.
How about another MVP scene? Is Connor McLeod just creepy as fuck stalking Brenda into the bar? Do you go to Madison Square Garden? I like to walk you home. I mean, what the fuck? What is happening? You have one life.
I mean, 86 was... It's a different time, I guess. And when you're living in New York in the 80s, you know, anybody who doesn't look like they might, anyone who doesn't look even okay, anyone who's wearing that jacket and clothes underneath isn't a flasher. Like that
Yeah.
person's that's gonna work.
The whole, I gotta say, the Brenda storyline is just so fucking clunky. The finding out that he keeps signing for dead babies, the metallurgy,
it's a really
police There's like 5 storylines that she is just holding together like Samson. We could peel back on that a little.
It's one of those things where, again, like we talked about this with Hellraiser too, is like it's one of those things you just had. Like, do you think there's a version of this movie that didn't have any fucking like any female like any other like female lead in it or anything like that, and it just became this like pursuit of the ultimate battle?
It feels like he needs to find a new Blossom before he fights Kurgan to me. Because that Blossom moment is so important, and, you know, Connery telling him, like, give it up. So in a way, Ramirez also, like Kurgan, was living for nothing except for, you know, training other Highlanders to someday cut his head off. My theory is that he gave him some fatal sword fighting flaw that he could exploit in a moment's notice and chop their fucking heads off. And then we would all just live in this big fucking Spanish peacock of a world.
Yeah.
Which honestly sounds great based on
we're all just
our
living
reality.
a lie at this point.
Yeah. Also MVP scene, Connor McLeod's epic duel. Fucking love that scene. Where the fucking guy just stabs him 8 times. And he's like, I'm sorry I called your wife a hideous warthog. And he runs away and the guy blows his valet away. This movie is surprisingly funny.
The valet, oh dude, there's a lot of great. The valet like getting shot. I had forgotten that happened. I was like, what? I rewound it. I was like, I must have missed like the actual.
There are various cuts of this, right? So it depends on which one you watch. But yeah,
it's a very. It just like happens. You're like, again. I rewound it. I'm like, I must have missed something. Maybe this guy's like a double crosser or something. No, just
it was just because the one guy said a big strong man like you should not be afraid of a little boom boom. I remember the last time I had boom boom, and then duel. We're literally traveling the times.
The duel is like one of those great like. The duel is one of those things. I was watching. I was like. Man, Barry Lyndon is so boring because this isn't in it, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
R.I.P. Castigear. R.I.P.
I
don't know, man. I feel like we've talked a while. It pains my soul because I'll never, ever, ever be able to pour as much out, right? Like when they get when they cut a Highlander's head off,
yeah,
and the lights blowing and they feel like their whole body shaking and their house could explode. That's how I feel when I watch my favorite movie, man. And I can't give that I don't know what I've said here that is worth all of this.
Look, I think the important thing about Highlander is that is the kind of pod that it elicits. Like, Highlander is the basis for this entire pod existing. Like,
one of them, for sure.
We're sitting here because... at some point we're going to talk about Highlander.
We dodged it for fear for years.
It's one of the great movies in the Alchemist oeuvre. And no matter how, look, I think I had a lovely time talking about this movie. No matter how it turns out, whatever it is, however we both feel about it, the passion that we have for talking about movies and the passion that you have as this is your birthday month for this movie
Great
itself.
Writing. Great writing. What a hook.
It's what makes this podcast function. It's what makes this podcast work. So like getting us to the prize is
this was the prize of the whole pod. We got to talk about Highlander. And again, it's this obvious beloved cult classic. It went on to spawn movies and TV shows. There's RPG editions for a lot of your favorite games to play. I have the Highlander board game, Highlander t-shirts, Highlander everything, fanfic. It's a beloved movie, and I think that is a testament to this really fucking weird amalgam of elements, and it just congealed, right, with this warm layer of Queen over top, and it just made this really fucking awesome fantasy time-traveling tale that I never get tired of, man. I always love the Kurgan rearing up on me again, right? I always love fucking Ramirez jumping into my life again. And I always want to help Connor carry Blossom, man. It just, I don't know what to say, man. It's very rare that you get to do this and talk about a movie that means that much to you.
I agree.
Man.
It's a movie that means quite a bit to you, and I'm personally very glad we've finally covered it.
Yeah, it is fucking outstanding, and it's a really apt way to wrap up this month. It's been fucking awesome. A lot of my favorite movies were talked about this month. And not even that, but just movies that meant a lot to me at various times in my life. It's been delightful. We'll be doing this for Alex in September, guys, so stay tuned. Ugh. We're going to fucking grease Alex up with aiolis. Whatever, well, fuck aiolis are. I don't know. They're on every menu. I have no idea what they are.
It's just mayo.
So get ready, big boy. Happy Halloween. But no, guys, thank you again. This double feature was a gift from our birthday, friend and Griff. Patron, Jason Keene, who we love very much. We hope that he, the rest of the patrons, and all of you enjoyed today's double feature. If you want to get in on the fun and be a Highlander yourself, go to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Every bit of support is so greatly appreciated. For those who already do that for us, thank you so much. Subscribe to the YouTube Film Alchemist. Email the pod, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Make sure you leave rating and reviews wherever you find the show. Just tell your friends, man. Tell your friends, retweet everything, share everything. That kind of stuff helps us out a ton too, guys. That's it. I'm exhausted from all the grease and hooks and head lopping. What a wild and amazing birthday month. We'll be back next month for a big anniversary, 4 years of the Film Alchemist. We're returning to where it all began with Animals Attack the Pod Month. That's going to be Jaws. That's going to be Lake Placid, Monkey Shines, and The Birds. We have some very cool stuff. We'll be doing a really full-length feature commentary on Snakes on a Plane. So it's going to be a wild, exciting month. Our patrons have selected My Neighbor Totoro and Blue Velvet for our Patreon exclusives. It's going to be one of our best months in a long time. It's been very, very fun to do those. So thank you guys for all the time. Stay tuned for all the great stuff. Go to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod if you want more. If you can't die and you've got time to kill, we're here for you, man. We're here for you. If you're cruising for a piece of ace, we're here for you. Hey, it's a kind of magic. We just exist here at your behest.
We will not burn out or fade away.
There can be only one. I don't know how many more I can get in.
How many more do you want to go with?
I'm just going to go stab a guy and get laid.
Bye.
Bye.